Hey guys, so I'm going to talk to you today about tone curve. And I've got the before and after so you can kind of see how I change it and what it does. But basically you've got your, separates it into highlights, lights, darks, and shadows. You'll notice there's a grayed out area around it. And that is like if I were to pull this down, it never extends past that grayed out area. So when you're hovering, it's good to see that because you can kind of tell, well, I can't go out farther than this grayed out area when I'm pulling this line around. You can also use sliders that do the same thing. Perhaps you want to do a specific number, or you're just not, you're more into the sliders. I don't know. You can, but you have that option as well. You can also, there's sliders right here, and so if I pull this down, and while I can only go this far, I can also move this slider over. And while that doesn't actually look that good, it is good to know that you can customize that a bit. You look at the shadows, you know, it covers a much bigger area now than it did before. You can also use some presets. I wouldn't recommend it though, just because we're artists and we should be using our artistic ability and exercising that. And when we have a program, it doesn't really let us do that. You can also click right here, and it's got like a custom thing. So if I were to like, um, it doesn't have presets already on it. You know, the program doesn't determine what moves the line you do. So like I can move the entire line over, and while that doesn't look good, you know, I can do it if I wanted. You can also set anchor points on it. So like if I wanted to do an S curve, well there I just put one right there. And there's something I like to do. You can also I don't do this much. Well, I don't do this, but you can do like a cross process type thing where if you pull it down, you notice it's blue and yellow, and I remember people used to be really into that. Um, so that's an option if you wanted to. So I've got this anchor point right here. I want to do something like a fade, kind of like what you see lots of, I don't know, I see it all the time on Instagram, but I didn't know how to do it on Lightroom for the longest time. But what I'm going to do is bring up the contrast in up here, and bring down the shadows. That way that looks good before I tamper with it. But you have your anchor point right here, and then how you do it is you bring this up a little bit. So you're making the darks and the shadows lighter, but then you bring it back down. So you notice that it looks different. You can tell it's got that fade on it. And you can kind of tamper with this, but of course, you know, be tasteful like that. It's pretty dark. If I were to bring it up, it might help. See? And then you can also do it here on the lights. So if I wanted to make it more muted, I could. You can also bring the highlights back up some, past that anchor point, and that just brightens it after you mute it, if that's your taste. But yeah, so those are some of the things that you can do with tone curve.